Hey everybody, what's up? Just popping in here. I wanted to follow up very briefly on what happened on the House floor today. That's my job. Hey everybody, what's up? Hey everybody. So I wanted to follow up briefly on what happened on the House floor today and to drive home some of the points of what I could not say. Now, this is not to say that I was censored or anything like that, but here's what's going on. If you haven't seen the news or you just haven't seen today, I spoke on the House floor with respect to Representative Gosar, who posted a video of where he depicted an animation of trying to kill me about a week ago. And because the Republican Party cannot bring themselves to say that depicting yourself killing a colleague is wrong and inappropriate, we had to bring a censure vote today in which two Republican members out of hundreds had the actual wherewithal to say threatening violence and inciting violence against one's colleague is wrong. So anyways, delivered the speech. You can check it on my congressional account if you'd like to see it. But I wanted to dig in a little bit deeper than what I really had the opportunity to discuss on the floor today. Because I was thinking a lot about what I could possibly fit in. First of all, I could only speak for 5 minutes, and I think I accomplished what I needed to accomplish in that time. But there's a lot more underlying this issue that we should discuss. Secondly, there are certain rules surrounding debate on the House floor that mean that you're not allowed to say certain things. For example, it's kind of an open question / generally unable to call someone racist on the House floor, even if that person has fundraised for white supremacist organizations, as Representative Gosar has done, and keynoted and really engaged in open conversation and encouragement of white nationalism, white nationalist organizations. Racism or racist is seen as expressly an insult, no matter how much evidence or embracing of racism there is. And so, it is kind of marked and can be challenged as engaging in personalities on the House floor, aka insulting somebody. So there's a lot to a racist and a white nationalist targeting a young woman of color for a depiction of violence that you're really not allowed to discuss, or you kind of have to beat around the bush on nationally. But I was really thinking a lot about this because, as I was able to mention in my floor remarks, is that there's a lot of this that has to do with nihilism. What is nihilism? Nihilism is a general idea that there's no morals, there are no standards, there is no meaning to anything that we do, and that nothing that we do matters. And I kind of want to discuss how this is connected to white supremacy, and how this idea that nothing matters, it's just a joke, etc., is really connected in very concrete ways to white supremacist ideology. So when you think about white supremacy is a system of beliefs in, I would say, let's call it mythology, or an ideology, of essentially a person being born of superior value, intellect, etc., because they were born white. But there's also other forms of supremacy. You know, you have patriarchy, which is that you are superior because you're a man, or, you know, whatever that may be. Any form of supremacy. But Gosar's specialty is white supremacy with a minor in patriarchy. And the thing about being a supremacist, white supremacist, a misogynist, whatever it may be, the thing about being a supremacist is that your entire identity, by definition, is relative. Is that your entire sense of self-worth is based on who you think you are better than. Whether it's classism or racism or, you know, misogyny, whatever that may be. Your whole identity and sense of self-worth is based on who you are better than. And so the opposite of a misogynist, you know, this is not about being someone who is not a man, right? But it's a question of, if you cannot be a man, if you do not know who you are as a man, unless it is relative and put in context and defined by the denigration of women and trans people, you are not a man at all. You don't know what you are. What are you? And so to the misogynist, without the denigration of women, who are you? If you cannot define yourself without somehow denigrating non-binary, femme, or trans people, who are you? For the white supremacist and the racist, without the denigration of immigrants, who are you? Without people, without what is your power, if not, what does your power look like? What power do you have if you cannot deny Black communities the right to vote? If you cannot denigrate and deny personhood of Native peoples? Who are you? And so the answer for them, to them, is nothing. The misogynist is nothing without women and their need to denigrate them and trans people. The white supremacist is nothing without their relative stated worth to immigrants, to Black communities, to Asian communities, to Native communities, to non-white communities. And so when a white supremacist like Representative Gosar wakes up and looks in the mirror with no one else around, they see nothing. They are looking into a void. And because they are looking into a void and see nothing, then nothing is what defines their world. And that is why, to them, nothing matters. Nothing they say matters. Nothing they do matters. No actions in their life are to be taken seriously or have any material value, not according to me, but according to them. And so I just want to make sure that you all know that that connection is explicit and clear. That this idea that nothing matters and that nothing has material consequence and that we should not take anything seriously at all is a notion born of the fact that connectedness does not exist, that people do not matter, and that there is no sense of self or identity unless you have someone to subjugate. And in that respect, I actually have compassion and deeply pity people like that. Because imagine how lonely and isolated and sad an existence must be to not be accountable or connected or feel any sense of self or connection to community. So, it's just a note that I wanted to speak to you all with. And additionally, when you have these jokers around saying that nothing they say or do matters, it's because none of them have had to ride in an armored 20,000-pound truck and need 5 people to go to the grocery store, because so many people are now trying to kill them because of something someone else said publicly as a joke. Not that this will change any hearts or minds of folks that are already deeply invested in this ideology, because their entire sense of identity and self-worth is so staked so deeply in this idea, in this myth of birthright of superiority. But I think it opens for those of us who are not white supremacists or, misogynists. I think it opens the question to us I think it paves a way of how we dismantle hate. And it has to be through connectedness and connection. And actually, just giving a shit about other people. And it's sad that this virus of not giving a shit about other people in this country or in this world is, spread to this point of nihilism. But it doesn't just cause the folks that you are targeting to suffer. Because the great irony with ideologies of supremacy is that in their desire to subjugate other people, and to subjugate queer people, subjugate anyone who's not white, subjugate the working class, the poor, etc., they actually need others the most. Because in order for a white supremacist to have any sort of value or identity, they need something or someone to be supreme to. And so the great irony of white supremacy is that they actually need immigrants more than immigrants need them in order to have any sort of sense of self-worth or identity or grounding. So, just wanted to leave you all with that, because that's what couldn't say on the House floor. But just make no mistake that if Republicans win the House, they will just, they have already made quite clear that they do not give any sort of consideration to ethics, justice, etc. They will target members of Congress. They will target women. They will target women of color. They will target people of color. They will target whoever they want to target in order to minimize democratic power, small d power. And then they will try to equate these things. They will try to equate their hurt feelings with their attempts to incite violence, actually incite violence. They will equate their bruised egos to people almost dying as a result of their actions. And I don't think that there's anything we can do to stop their dedication to doing that if they gain power. But that being said, no matter what happens, communities of resilience and solidarity have always been here. They will continue to be here, and they always will be here. And so, no matter what happens, unlike supremacists, we have each other. And we have each other across groundings of identity, gender, race, class, etc. And that is the true beauty and power of solidarity. That I don't need a precondition of who you are in order to value you. So, peace out, y'all. Love ya. And have a good week. Bye-bye.